Good morning. My name is Alan Umstead, and on behalf of the You're Not Alone ministry, we wish to thank all of you. We know you summertime have busy schedules and vacations, but we're grateful that you're here. We have a fantastic speaker and topic today coming up, and we're going to be learning about Northwestern Community Services. We're going to be learning about peer support and the role in recovery from addictions. Addictions is such a tragedy here in our society, and we're just thankful that we can uh, share information about this topic to help not only possibly yourselves, but certainly family members and friends. So I'd like to take a brief moment to pray, and then we'll go ahead and start. Lord Jesus, thank you for bringing us together to once again help us to understand the difficulties we face in wrestling with mental illness in the lives of our loved ones and possibly even ourselves. We know you have a unique plan for each one of our lives. Please help us to better understand and better equip ourselves to deal with both pleasant experiences as well as life's difficulties. Please give us the tools, grace, and encouragement to fight this earthly battle and win. Guide us today to an understanding of your perfect plan for us and for our families. Amen. At this time, I'd like to introduce Kathryn. She uses
I go by Kat.
Kat Turner. And Kat is not spelled with a C. Kathryn is a certified peer recovery specialist at Northwestern Community Services. Kathryn has certifications in mindfulness, APPR, she'll explain that later, the Seeking Safety Program, QPR, as well as she's a certified NAMI facilitator. She has herself been in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction for 35 years.
Praise God.
Kathryn has worked at Rivendell Recovery Center and Northwestern Community Services for the past 5 years. As a certified PRS, she uses her lived experiences as a person in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction and recovery from mental illness to walk with others on their chosen path of recovery and her experiences with Northwestern to connect with services there. So at this time, I'd like to please welcome Kat.
Okay, hi. I'm Kat. I'm a little bit nervous, but you guys have been so wonderful and welcoming, so I want to thank you for that. Wow, I feel like Alan pretty much said everything. We can all go home now. I wanted to
Wonderful seminar.
Thank you.
You invited her back.
Thanks. I wanted to take the first part of the seminar to get you guys a little bit familiar with what Northwestern offers, and then we'll take a little break, and the second half I'll talk a little bit about my experience and why I believe that peer recovery specialists and people with lived experience have a unique role in helping others. So first of all, at Northwestern, we offer, let me get my notes so I don't miss something. We offer help for people with mental illness and addiction, which is part of the DSM, considered a mental illness as well. The treatment is a little different than other mental illnesses. We have a couple of psychosocial rehabs, which are like day programs for people with mental illnesses. One is in Front Royal. It's called Our Family, and it's very aptly named. I love Our Family. I've worked there and done some groups there. The people are wonderful. They're all very close, and they support each other, and they have a great time. You would you know, they have, the role of it is to help people with mental illnesses and even some with developmental issues to have a place to go where they can be a part of society and not feel so left out. They offer free lunches, they do outings, we play games. And we do some serious stuff like groups and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's a psychosocial rehab, like I said. So they can teach people how to interact with others, how to interact with themselves, how to do activities of daily living. That's in Front Royal. We also have one called Sunshine House, which is out in Newmarket, and it does the same thing. Sunshine House actually has less people, but it's a little bit bigger. They have a little bit more there. They have guitars hanging on the wall so people can, you know, play music. There's always art that you can do in these places. And the people that work there are very friendly and but the people that work there, it's really more of a facilitating. They're there to guide. The people coming together is what helps. I kind of, when I talk, I kind of go off on branches and then come back to the main thing. So I'm going off on a branch here to say that when this is a Christian organization, so I feel comfortable talking about God. I think of the power of God as kind of like an electric current that without a circuit can't go anywhere. So when we come together, the circuit can be completed and we can experience Him through each other. And that's what a lot of these things at Northwestern are doing, although it's not a Christian organization, it's a quasi-government organization. For substance use disorder, which is the new age term for addiction, we have IOP, which is three times a week for a minimum of 3 hours. We have groups for people. It's IOP stands for intensive outpatient. So it's like a treatment center, but that people can just go to 3 times a week and still remain at home and possibly still work if they can work their schedule around it. So that's helpful for people who can't do inpatient. We have OBAT, which stands for Office-Based Addiction Treatment. And what they do there is medically assisted treatment, or MAT. There's a lot of acronyms. And that's naltrexone, Suboxone, stuff like that, which are medicines that they're relatively new medicines. Suboxone is a lot like methadone, and I believe there is a methadone clinic here in Winchester that are, usually designed for people who use opiates, but they use the medications for other addictions as well. And they do have counseling there. Let me see what else I got here. Oh, they have a organization for SEI, which is substance exposed infants. So they have case management for mothers. Also recovery skills group. Also in the substance use department, we have case managers, we have counselors. We work with the drug court. I think they're trying to start calling it recovery court now, which is an alternative to jail for people who are, nonviolent offenders who have gone to jail for drug and alcohol illegalities. And it's a great program because it's a way that, because addiction is an illness, that people who break the law because of their illness have a chance to get some help. Going to jail can help people to hit a bottom in their recovery and start to think that, this really is affecting my life. I can't seem to control it. Maybe I should get some help. But actually being in jail is not helpful for it. I've known a lot of people that have found a lot of ways to get drugs and even make alcohol in jails and stuff like that. So it's really better to have, the opportunity. And I've worked in drug court too. I've co-facilitated in some groups with them, and it's really helpful. Not everybody will get help from it because you have to be ready. But I have seen some people that when they are, complying with the rules of drug court, I've seen some light bulbs go off and some people come around to, when I first came here, I was just doing what I had to do to get out of jail, but now I'm able to, now I really want recovery, and the program shows people where to get it if they're ready and they want it. A great program. They have outpatient therapy. I wanted to get to that last. We have crisis services that does CIT training, crisis intervention team training. They talk to emergency responders, especially the police, and give them certifications so that they can deal with people having mental illness crises, so that they don't have to, it's a different approach from criminal to mental illness. And unfortunately, law enforcement has had to get involved in that. So if anyone is having a mental health crisis and you need to call law enforcement, request a CIT trained officer, because there are some, and they understand what to do in these instances. Great program. Let's see. All right, so now I'm going to, okay, we also have same-day access, which is unique in other mental health facilities. I was talking to somebody beforehand, and the harvest is ready and the workers are few. There are so many people who need these services and so few who are trained and capable to deal with these services. But Northwestern has something called same-day access, where you come in the morning, and I have a schedule over here. No, I don't. I have the information. I have in my notes over here. It didn't print well, but I can talk to somebody after, where you go in and get processed into Northwestern to get pointed to get the ball rolling and getting the services that you need. It's a difficult program to get into. All programs are difficult to get into, but same-day access is really difficult because, again, there's so many people that need help, and the processing and paperwork takes so long. They can really only take about 4 people at a time. So we advise people to get there early, get in as soon as you can, and don't give up. Keep going whenever they're opened. We have offices all over the area. We go, Shenandoah, Warren, Page counties, Winchester City, Frederick County, Clark County. We're everywhere. Northwestern is. So hopefully, do what you can to get yourself or someone the help that they need, and anything we can do to help. The people that work there, again, are overworked, underpaid, but they care so much, and anything that we can do. The reason I wanted to work at Northwestern is for what I do, peer support. I'm a peer recovery specialist, like Alan said. What my job is because of my lived experience in, recovering from addiction and living with mental illness, and addiction is alcoholism, and addiction doesn't go away. It's just I have to focus it in a different area, and because of that, I can help people in a unique way because I understand. I know where they're coming from, and also they can't lie to me because I've done all the lies and all the rationalizations, and I can see through it in a loving way to help people, the way other people lovingly helped me. At Northwestern, we have peers that you can get individually work with one-on-one. And what we do is we kind of, it's kind of like a coach. We walk with people in their chosen path of recovery. We encourage them, help them, we can motivate each other, keep each other accountable. Sometimes it's really just a matter of listening to someone and being that face of encouragement and hope. We have, so, within the drug court program and within Northwestern, people can request a peer. It so far is paid for by the organization. We have, some government funding and grants. We're going to start going into billing Medicaid ourselves, which is going to make it a lot more difficult. But the good news is some of the things we offer. We have Within Reach Peer Center, which is it's out on Amherst Street in Winchester. And again, I can give you guys any information you need afterwards. But it's a drop-in center. You don't have to be a client of Northwestern. You can just come in and be in a safe place, a place of recovery. There are peers always running around the peer center. We have a kitchen. We have access to, people can come in and have access to computers to look for jobs or just to play on sometimes. We have a TV, and I think we have some video games there. Nobody's been using them recently, which is a good thing. We do offer some groups every day. These are the current groups. We're about to go through another change where we change the groups that we do, but they're bringing NAMI in to do a meeting there. Right now we have a similar thing called Living Without Labels. We have AcuDetox, which is sort of a like an acupuncture thing that's supposed to help people through detox. We have the Seeking Safety program, refuge recovery, meditation groups, arts and creativity group, which is fun. There are some people that come in, and I don't want to call them clients because they're my peers, and also because not all of them are clients of Northwestern. It's, anyone from the community can come in, and they just come in and hang out. They do diamond art, which is a new little pastime thing. It's kind of like cross stitch, but instead of sewing crosses, you put a little plastic diamond and just sit around and chat. And we're there for each other doing life together. And it's open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I remember when I first came into recovery, I would have loved a place that if I had nothing to do and was just sitting alone and in my head, that I could go to and be around other people who, had the same goals as me to be in recovery. Just a safe place. It's a tough world out there, as you all know. And to have a safe place with safe people is a great community resource. And I've seen lights turn on there too. It's a great thing. Before COVID, we had a clothing closet. We had a food pantry. We even had a facility where people could take showers, which is great because homeless people come in just for a place to be and, community around them, because isolation is terrible for any kind of mental illness. And even without mental illness, enough isolation could cause it. So we do have homeless people that come in and just exist with others. A lot of those have shut down since COVID because of the restrictions. But, some people, I remember when we first shut down for COVID and had to shut the facility down, there was a homeless man that lived in his van. And I had to go by the Peer Center for one reason or another. And every time I went to the Peer Center to check on something, he was there with his van. Are you guys open yet? Are you guys open yet? And I just felt so terrible because I had to turn him away. Am I messing up this microphone? I'm sorry. But I'm happy to say that he's back. He's a regular appliance there. He comes in and goes on the computer and chats with people. And if we don't see him, we worry about him. So he's a good guy. So that just the fact that we have that was the reason that I was like, this is the place for me. This is a great thing to have. As peers, we can advocate for our peers. We can go with them to doctor's appointments and, maybe say things that we've noticed about their medication and their behaviors and stuff, if they give us permission, of course, because, we can't always see ourselves very well. So others around us can. Mainly what we do is point them to resources and help them to get them. And that's not just the resources within Northwestern. It's also community resources. I have here a meeting list for AA and another one for NA. I'm just to make sure you guys are familiar, I think you probably are. AA is Alcoholics Anonymous, a 12-step group. NA is Narcotics Anonymous, also a 12-step group. There's a 12-step group for families of addicts and alcoholics called Al-Anon. They also have Nar-Anon, which is the Al-Anon of NA. Very helpful. And in those programs, you work the steps yourself, and that grows us closer to God, so that we are better prepared and equipped to help our alcoholics and addicts that we love. I only have AA and NA, but if you are interested in Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, I can get that information for you afterwards. Northwestern also, and it's not as well known, has Children, Youth, and Family Services. Because of HIPAA, that's harder to find in the community. And I know when my kids were going through a difficult time, especially my one, it was really hard to find anyone who would work with kids. I was going through a divorce, and my youngest two, who were still at home, were 12 and 10. And once my son turned 13, I was able to get him help and get him counseling. But to find someone who would work with anyone under the age of 13, there are certain certifications. It's very difficult. But Northwestern does offer that. And they offer family services where they can help families to come together, which is great, because often when the kid is having issues, they're the weather vane of the family. And there's, the whole family is affected. There's also adult mental health case management, substance use disorder. We went over that. There's also a developmental side to Northwestern too, which I'm not as familiar with because I haven't worked in that area. And they also can case manage, connect people with case managers to help with housing, to help with, just group homes, connections, because that's, like I was talking about before, connections is where it happens. Another something that we're doing in conjunction with Goodwill and our community, it's a get on board class where you can learn job seeking and interviewing skills, how to keep employment, banking and financial literacy, and other things like that, which are also hard to find. The schools don't teach you how, these life skills. And, if you happen to have parents who were, for one reason or another, incapable, we now have adults that don't know how to do these things. I read a book, actually a book on tape. I think it was Frederick Douglass, and he was talking about coming from slavery into freedom, and he didn't even know how to sleep on a bed. He was like, do you sleep between the blanket and the sheet? Do you sleep between the sheets with the blanket on? He didn't know these things. And one of his ministries was to help people, like him, again, back to the peer support method of operation, that somebody who's been there and walked through it can help somebody else who's going through it at the time. So he, with the school that he developed, he helped a lot of newly freed slaves to learn to life, basically. We also have the Virginia Lock and Talk program. This is part of Northwestern's prevention, especially with elders or with people who have maybe teenagers at home. There's a lot of the two things that are very dangerous: drugs, prescription drugs, and weapons. So we have Lock and Talk, which encourages people to talk to people about the dangers of these things. We have trigger locks and other gun lock things that we give out for free. We have lots of different things to keep prescription medications safe. There's a medication bottle that has a timer on it. So as people are getting older and more forgetful, they don't know if they've taken their medication or not. And that's, happened in a lot of times into a overdose, an accidental overdose. So you can open up the bottle. It resets when you open the bottle. You take your medicine, close it. You can look at it. Did I take my medicine? Oh, yes, I did 20 minutes ago. Or no, I didn't. It's been 5 hours. Time to take it again. Great little thing. We have, to keep medicine out of the hands of children, we have, it's a book on the outside and it'll say New English Dictionary. But when you open it up, it's actually like a box that you can put medications in. Some of them lock, some of them don't, but you can hide it on a bookshelf. No teenager is going to be looking for a dictionary. so it's a great hiding place for that, and for little kids too. So that's another great program we do. There is Response Incorporated, which I need my glasses for. Providing hope and healing to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. There's also in the community, the Laurel Center here in Winchester. And I think in Front Royal, they still have the Phoenix Project, which is for people with domestic issues. Here's Shenandoah Alliance for Shelter, Preventing Homelessness and Achieving Independence. I have a little something on NAMI here, but I think in the back there's a lot more. And NAMI is a great resource for people who struggle with or live with mental illnesses and also their family members. And that's one of the things that I love about NAMI is that it gets the family involved. Because again, it's the connection. That's the theme today, the connection that we come together that gives God a circuit to run. And we're going to start doing that again at the Peer Center, having NAMI meetings there as well. Here's a schedule for NAMI meetings. And look at that. Most of the meetings are called Connection. That's great. And I think NAMI also has online meetings, at least it used to, does it?
Yes, you could go on the NAMI NSB website and access that schedule. They started during the pandemic.
Okay. Great. Yeah, as a peer, I need to be more up to date than I am on the community resources that are out there, because that's part of my job, is to refer people. And, we also have work vans that we can drive people to meetings. If somebody wanted to go to a NAMI meeting or an AA meeting or something, we can go with them, because it's scary to go alone the first time. It's just I just really love the program. So that's basically what Northwestern offers. Does anybody have any questions on this? Alan?
Kat, you've enumerated a number of optional programs that you have at Northwestern. What kind of costs are they? What's covered by insurance, not covered by insurance? Kind of talk a little bit about, are these programs free, or are they costs associated with them, if you can?
Great. That's a great question. Thank you. My job is to serve. I don't think about the money part, so I'm glad you brought that up. Northwestern does take insurances. I don't know which insurances. If you don't have insurance, they do provide sliding scales. Of course, AA meetings, NA meetings, NAMI meetings are free. The meeting or the groups that we have in the Peer Center, and the Peer Center is free to the community. Same day access, of course, is free, and that's where they'll talk to you about sliding scales and what they can and can't offer. I believe it is still at the moment free to be assigned a peer recovery specialist for yourself. And the Lock and Talk program gives those things for free and does seminars, and there are a lot of classes too, the crisis intervention training classes and stuff like that. And since the crisis intervention is involved with law enforcement, there's no charge for that either, as far as I'm aware. I wish I had been better prepared for that. Oh, we also have in the Peer Center, and here is a list of community resources. In the Peer Center, one of my coworkers compiled a book that's that thick of community resources, and labeled and organized. She's awesome. So if somebody comes in, there was a guy came in the other day who he'd been living in a tent in the woods. I don't know if y'all know, there's a big tent community of homeless, some of whom are working, but the pay is not good enough to provide for housing. I mean, it's so expensive. And he came in with nothing. Somebody had ransacked his tent, stolen his tent, his wallet, everything he had. He had only the clothes on his back. And we were able to, get him in. And what was really great is the permanent installation that I told you about, the homeless man that comes in every day. He was able to talk to the guy and get him hooked up with resources. And, we got him signed up for case management. I think they got him a peer, all at no expense. And, one of the peers who works more towards the housing area was connecting him with services for housing. And we can give cards for like $25 for Martin's or Walmart. And he was reluctant to go to the police to report that his license and everything was missing because of the way he's living. So a peer offered to go with him and talk through that. So it's and I feel kind of bad because there wasn't really much we could do for him immediately. It takes time to get in the system, but I am grateful that he knew there was a place that he could go, and he had a roof over his head that day until 5 o'clock. Luckily it's summertime, so I'm sure he'll be all right for now. And I think y'all are probably aware, and maybe even work with the Watts program. But I hope that what I said answered your question. That's pretty much all I know about it. You'd have to really contact somebody at Same Day Access because it's kind of a case-by-case basis. Did you have another question?
Yeah, Northwestern Community Services has a number of different locations. I believe you're at the Amherst Street building. There's also a Northwestern there off of Route 11 as you go out of town to the south. Um, you know, Front Royal. What services are offered at what facilities, or if a person's coming in and doesn't know anything about Northwestern and all the good programs, what facility should they go to? And the different buildings offer different services. I mean, you don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but just for a layperson that doesn't know anything about Northwestern.
Okay, another great question. Thank you. In case you didn't hear in the back, he was asking about the different facilities and what they offer at them. In order to get involved into Northwestern, you'd have to go through Same Day Access, which is at the one in Winchester, the one which is on Prosperity Avenue over by the Outback Steakhouse there, and the office in Front Royal, and they would direct you to where the services are. But a lot of them overlap. The Peer Center is the only Peer Center in this area, and that's on Amherst Street in Winchester. There's drug court and OBAT and counseling and case management at both the Winchester, or at all of the Winchester, Page County, Warren County offices. There is drug court in Page and Winchester. At the place in Amherst, what we have is just the Peer Center and drug court counseling and some case management. The bulk of the things are at the one on Prosperity Drive in Winchester. They have, individual counseling, more individual counseling than we have at Amherst. They have OBAT there. I believe they have OBAT at Page County office too. And then the various other facilities for the other thing, like Children and Youth Services is somewhere in Winchester that I think they kind of keep a little bit on the down low. And the day programs are Sunshine House is freestanding out in Newmarket, but Our Family Psychosocial Rehab is in the office in Warren County. I think that's about it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay.
There's a pharmacy at Northwestern, so is that
just for clients that come there?
I believe it is. She asked about the pharmacy. There's one at the Warren County Center one, and that's, I believe, just for the clients there. And also a lot of mental health clients and people that are on Suboxone, because it is abusable. They have to come in and get it at certain times. And some of the mental health medications are a monthly shot. So they come in and give them a shot. Oh, there's also a new program at Northwestern where they have people who, case managers who go to the homes of people who are mentally ill that would, to teach, they are a part of society that wouldn't get out and get themselves to the help. So we bring the help to them. They have nurses that can come and administer the medications. They can go and help the people clean their houses. They can, help them do their shopping, remind them to shower, things like that. I think that's called ACT, A-C-T, and I can't remember what that stands for. And I don't know where that one's located, but again, really the best thing to do is come to Same Day Access or come to the Peer Center, because we have, that big thick book of everything. The address for that, if anybody's interested, is, oh wait, I see people looking for a pen. I can also give this information afterwards. It's 1014 Amherst Street. And you'll see the sign that says Northwestern. Come in the back door, and there will be a bunch of peers there that can direct you to anything that you need. Okay. Lots of questions.
Yes, those who are trained in CIT, does law enforcement ever reach out to one of them to accompany them to a situation or a scene?
That's a good question. The question was, for the law enforcement that's trained in CIT, do they ever call someone to go with them? I'm not sure of the answer to that. I know I had a peer or a coworker that was trying to get that started. And I know that there's at least one peer that works in the CIT program. I don't know if anybody has called a peer to go along with them, but I know that if that hasn't happened yet, it's in the process of happening, because that's a great idea. The law enforcement is a little bit reluctant with that because, certain dangers that they are trained for that the peer might not be. But, most of the time it's not like it is on TV where there's, where mentally ill are dangerous and violent. I mean, not that it never happens, but probably 75 to 80% of the time it's not. It's just someone that needs help. So, it's a great program. Did you have a question?
Yes, I know that you have healthcare providers who have prescribed Suboxone and naltrexone. Do they also prescribe medicines for other mental illnesses?
Yes, they do. The question was that we have providers that will provide naloxone and naltrexone and Suboxone. They also do provide mental health medications.
What is Northwest Works on any, is that
I think that's something else. What it is a program for people who are probably developmentally delayed, that they can have a job, and there are people that work with them working there. I don't think that that's affiliated with Northwestern Community Service Board. And that question was about Northwestern Works. So, any other questions?
What's happened to the PAC team?
It is still, the question was about the PAC team. I'm just not very familiar with it, so I didn't mention it. It still exists. Ma'am? National Alliance on Mental Illness. Thanks for asking that. Like I said, there's a lot of acronyms, and I've gotten so used to them now that I forget. Okay, any other questions?
Who's a good prospect for peer recovery specialist versus a therapist?
Peer recovery specialists are not therapists. So the person would probably benefit from having a therapist too. But other than that, everybody is a candidate for peer support. We have some peers that focus more on mental illness, some peers that focus more on addiction, many peers that are there for both. So anybody in the community. Mhm.
If somebody was interested in your sport, but they were also wanting a Christian, how do you accommodate that, or what would you say to that individual?
That's a great question. The question was if you wanted peer support, but you wanted it to be a Christian or a spiritual bent to it. Northwestern, of course, being a quasi-government, is not able to say this is a Christian thing or this is a spiritual thing. But I have found that many of our clients are interested in that. And we are allowed to provide it because we do have that freedom in America. So my suggestion, if you were looking for something like that, would be to talk to my boss, David Cash, and I'll give his number out at the end too. He will provide peer support, but I would suggest say, I'm looking for someone who is Christian or who has, his job is to find a good fit for the client and the peer. And we do have, I myself am Christian, we've had others that are Christian, and I think we've even, we have had Bible studies as peer groups, because again, we have that freedom. So that is, I'm really happy about that, because my own struggle with it is that I have a hard time not, God is such a part of my recovery, and I don't believe any healing happens without his spirit. I can be open to people having their own concepts because, God will reveal himself to us as long as we're open to it. And I can work with that. And, since we do have, there's refuge recovery meetings, which is, I think, an 8-step program that's Buddhist based, then if we can do that, we can definitely do Christian based ones too. And we have. So thanks. Great question.
You say you have, are they currently running?
We don't currently have a Bible study happening, but now that you're bringing that up, maybe I'll start one. That's, yeah. The girl who was doing it before, and I attended it just because I wanted to. She's moved on to another company, so that might be because a lot of times when we're just chatting in the peer center, people will bring up God and spirituality and Jesus, and there's such a hunger for that out in this world, and I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I can provide that if it's asked for, and not if it's not. Great question.
We might want to take a break.
If there weren't any more questions, that was what I was going to suggest. So let's take a short break. I don't know how long I talked, so. Someone come in and talk about different drugs and alcohol and what they do to you. And they had film strips of teenagers like me who were recovering from addiction telling their story. And that really struck a chord with me because I could relate to these people. And they were my age and they knew what was going on with me. And it scared me so much I couldn't go back to class. I went to the nurse's office and I just told her I needed a place to cry and calm down. And without telling her what was going on with me, I just explained that I felt like I dug myself into a hole that I couldn't get myself out of. I was young and stupid, and I thought, well, I'll just do drugs for a while, and I'll stop before I get addicted, which is kind of funny because it's not the nature of addiction, but that was how I thought at the time. But at that time, I realized I couldn't. I didn't know how to live without my brain being altered in some way. So she referred me to the local mental health center, and I started going to therapy, individual and group therapy, and it was very helpful in that it helped me to deal with some of my childhood issues. I mean, I was still a child, but you know, my father's drinking and stuff like that. But it didn't do anything to help me to stop drinking or doing drugs. I decided at that point I was going to stop drugs and just drink instead, because drinking was okay. Everybody drinks. My family drinks, you know, people around me drink, and I can still get high, but it'll be okay. So you know, the nature of this disease is that as long as I'm feeding addiction, I'm going to, as long as I'm feeding addiction, that monster will continue to grow. And it's a monster that I can't fight because I'm too weak. So even though I said I quit drugs and was just drinking, I still continued to do drugs. And that kind of confused me a little bit. I didn't think too much about it, but for somebody who quit drugs, I sure did a lot of drugs. I moved to Germany. My dad worked for the government, and we moved to Munich, the beer capital of the world. So for somebody who is trying to quit drinking or quit doing drugs by drinking, I was in heaven. You know, the best beer ever, no drinking age limit. So I was off to the race. I don't remember much. But what helped me to reach a bottom was I came back to America. I was in college, and I was still doing drugs and drinking. And it was starting to be a problem because I was only 19 and I couldn't buy alcohol. So I was going through withdrawals. I didn't know that I was going through withdrawals because I didn't know why I was having the symptoms I was having. And I knew something was terribly wrong. I didn't know that what was wrong with me was alcoholism. I knew that I drank. I knew that some people had an issue with how I drank. But I was like, there must be more wrong with me than that. I ended up going to a kind of a seminar like this on drugs and alcohol at the college that I was at. And I met a girl there who brought me to my first AA meeting. And I was like, okay, I'll go with you because my dad's an alcoholic and he's ruining my life. That's what's wrong. His alcoholism. He lived 100 miles away. We didn't really have much contact, but he was ruining my life. So I went to the AA meeting, and I expected to find a bunch of old men in overcoats whining that they couldn't drink, you know. And people were talking and laughing and having a good time. And I'm like, either they're not alcoholics or I'm not an alcoholic, because this is not how I feel. But they had something I wanted. I was raised Catholic, so I always went to church out of guilt. So I knew God. I could say that I had a relationship with him because I would pray. And when I was drunk or high, I would pray and feel guilty about it. But I did it because of, you know, fear. And I don't believe now that that's the kind of relationship that God wants to have with me. And when I finally came to the point where I had tried, you know, I heard in AA all these stories and, you know, what alcoholism was, and I was watching these things play out in my life. So I thought, well, okay, I'll try to quit drinking. I didn't stay with AA. I tried to quit drinking on my own and found out that I couldn't. I could go a couple of days maybe, and then my disease would say, oh, see, you went 2 days without a drink. You're not an alcoholic. So then I was like, okay, I can drink now, and I was right back into it. So I came back to AA, and there's always in an AA meeting the one old man who has 1,000,000 years sober, and when I was ready at that point, and he was the one that I went up to after the meeting and said, I can't stop drinking and I need help. You know, I've worked the steps in AA. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since that day. And that was, like we said, 35 years ago. That was back in 1990. In the 90s, a lot of psychologists were reluctant to diagnose mental illnesses in someone who was still drinking and using, because drugs and alcohol and active addiction mimics so many mental illnesses. And, you know, some of the better ones wouldn't diagnose you at all until you'd been sober for at least 2 years, because also the withdrawal, and there's the acute withdrawal in the beginning, there's post-acute withdrawal after that, and there's just also the learning to live life without drugs and alcohol. Honestly, the scariest thing when I was using was coming back to reality. I couldn't life, is the way I put it. I was taught to get out of AA and NA what I was trying to get out of drugs. And that worked at first. And then through working the 12 steps, I came to a relationship with God. And now I get from God all the things that I used to try to get from drugs and alcohol, which, you know, drugs and alcohol couldn't provide, temporarily blinded me to it. But and not only what I was trying to get out of drinking and using, but so much more. But that's a whole nother story, and I think you guys already know about this, or you wouldn't be here. But I have, my mental illness is OCD, and I've had that for as long as I can remember. I remember some of my earliest memories having issues with obsessions and compulsions. I remember being maybe 2 or 3 years old and having it. The drugs and alcohol, they say sometimes we're self-medicating. It doesn't really work. It just kind of sometimes would push the symptoms away. Sometimes it would make the symptoms stronger. And that's why I didn't realize that drugs and alcohol were a problem, because I could see mental illness there and I couldn't put my finger on it, because I thought OCD was just people who wash their hands too much, and that's not a compulsion that I have. There's a whole lot more to it. When I had about 2 years clean and sober was when it really started to get bad. I also got pregnant, and hormones make it worse too. And that's when I started going back to therapy. Therapy definitely has its place, and its place is for mental illness and for trauma issues. It didn't help me at all with addiction. I could go through all my childhood and all those things, but I needed something more practical, like not so much let's work through these issues as how do I not drink today? And that's where, you know, having others who had been there and walked the walk could answer that question for me and be there for me. So I started going back to therapy with about 2 years clean and sober, and it actually made things worse. Different mental illnesses have different treatments. And since I didn't have the OCD diagnosis, I just was diagnosed with anxiety. It's an anxiety disorder. I was told to not do things that make me anxious, which then feeds the compulsions, you know, because that's what I was trying to do. I feel anxious, I'll do these things, it'll make me feel better. And my world started getting smaller and smaller. You know, first driving at night made me uncomfortable, so I could only drive during the day. Then taking left turns made me uncomfortable, so I could only make right turns and go around the block. Certain roads I was afraid of, so I wouldn't go on those roads. Sooner or later, I couldn't drive at all. After a while, I couldn't leave the house at all. I eventually got the proper diagnosis, and the struggle with the mental health system is terrible. Again, there are so many people who need help, and so few people who are qualified to help. So it took some years for me to get a proper diagnosis and proper treatment. And again, like drug addiction and alcoholism, this particular mental illness won't go away. I'll have to live with it for my life. But I now have tools that I can use to help me to do life, basically. I don't feel as debilitated as some people. I mean, I can stand up here and talk to you good people, which I couldn't do before, but I still struggle with, if I work full time, there's a lot of stress and symptoms start coming back. If anything goes wrong, I have to, if I don't get enough sleep or something like that, there's a lot that goes into it. I also need a lot of time with God. I take an hour to do every day to do treatment for my OCD with God, and it mingles with the steps of AA and NA too. So prayer and meditation time is very important. When I practiced this talk yesterday, I had a point, and I can't remember what it is. But I think I just wanted to reiterate again that the only people that could help me were people who had been there and done that. You know, with the drugs and alcohol, the people in AA and NA had been there before and walked that path, and they could see through my lies. They could tell me what I was doing that I didn't even see myself. And they, not only that, but they had an answer because they had broken free. So they showed me the steps and gave me the slogans and showed me how to do the things. You know, the theories were always there. I grew up in religion and, oh, just have faith. But nobody ever taught me how to have faith. What does that look like? What do I do? You know, I can't just snap my fingers, say, okay, I have faith, now I'm all better. You know, it's very much action involved. And the same with the mental illness. I got better. There is a 12-step group for OCD, by the way, and also for schizophrenia. I think SA, Schizophrenics Anonymous, OCA is Obsessive Compulsive Anonymous. There are 12 steps for everything. When it comes to drugs and alcohol and addiction, I think there's nobody that can help but somebody who has been there and gone through it. When it comes to mental illness, I think there needs to be a trained person that is very familiar with the symptoms and the steps in coming out of it. But even in that, you know, when I was in group therapy for the OCD, and I could talk to the people in my group and say, oh, no, you're not a horrible person. That's just the OCD. You don't have to listen to that. Then I had to take a look at myself and say, I keep grabbing the mic, and say, you know, if I can believe that with her, that it's not her, that she's a horrible, sick person, but that it's just the OCD, then I have to believe that for myself too. And that, you know, I couldn't get that from a therapist or a doctor or anything like that. Mental illness is a little bit more tricksy, so I do recommend, you know, a trained professional for that. But the concept is the same. We need each other. We need community. We need that circuit of love that flows. Yeah, and that's what, you know, peer support can offer, because my supervisor is really good at pairing people, like when you were asking about, you know, religion in it and stuff like that, because he knows each one of us. He knows our strengths and our weaknesses. He's a great supervisor. So he can match a peer with a peer recovery specialist that will be able to help them. And you know, it's funny how the worst things about me were what I put on my resume to work at Northwestern. You know, my addictions, my mental illnesses and stuff. You don't usually think you'd put that on a resume. But it's just my story. And I believe that God has all of us here for a reason, but that we don't have to do any big thing. We don't have to create a huge ministry or preach to thousands of people. We just need to be the person that God made us to be. And when we're in a good, healthy community, we're in a safe place where we can be who we are. You know, we each have to be the different person that we are in order to fulfill our purpose in life. And I want to say that I have some experience with that world and with, to me, and I hope I'm not being preachy, and I certainly hope I don't go against anybody's doctrine, but I believe that the kingdom of God is here now. Jesus said so, and that it runs parallel with this world. And when I'm in recovery, I'm in the kingdom. But the other kingdom is still there for me to fall into easily if I don't maintain that. So I think that all of us are peers. We all have a story to tell. We all have our story of coming into the kingdom of God, and we need to do that. You know, you don't have to be a drug addict or an alcoholic or mentally ill to have a story to tell or a way that we can help others. I'm not above anybody because of my story. I'm not below anybody because of my story. We're all just humans. Excuse me. Oh, I grabbed the mic again. We're all just humans trying to make our way in this world. And I want to say that we are all peer recovery specialists that specialize in our own story. And that, you know, as Christians and as humans, we have a responsibility to get that out there and be there for, not just go out and find people, but be there for the people who are right in front of us. And, you know, it's scary to do that because we have to open up and be vulnerable, but that's where the magic happens. And, you know, wasn't it David that said, I'll become even more undignified than this? One of the things I'm always afraid and embarrassed to let people in, but he didn't have that. He said, I'll be even more undignified, whatever it takes for the Spirit of God to come through me. And so that's what we do. That's what I do. Sometimes I get paid for doing it. Sometimes I don't. But I want to encourage all of you to be peer supports. And that's all I have on my story. But I'm going to be here for a while and definitely open to questions. So thanks.
Maybe even help people who struggle with addictions. Could you tell us what you think of that type of concept?
Thanks. That's a great question. Very intense. And my answer is going to come from myself and my own opinions, not anything else. The question was about AI and how it's being kind of advertised as a way to help people to find religion and learn about religion, and also to help people with addiction. And he asked my opinion on that. My first thought is, what do you want to be connected with? You know, do you want to be connected with a machine that has no soul, or do you want to be connected with human beings who have the Spirit of God in them? I have experienced that a little bit. I have a friend who's kind of looking over Christianity and religion and God, and he always turns to not ChatGTP, I think his favorite is Claude, about religion. I think that AI is taught by people on the internet, and where the Bible is out there on the internet too, so are other people and other people's opinions. And that's where it's forming its stuff from. My honest concern is that it's going to become an idol because we're going to end up relying on it very much. And my other concern with AI is the Neuralink, where they are, you know, helping people who are quadriplegics by putting these chips in their brain, and they can manipulate computers just with thought. Because my concern is for the mentally ill. Historically, the mentally ill have been used for experiments, and horrific things have happened. And about the connection, and my opinion on that, when, and this isn't directly about AI, but computery still. When COVID happened, a lot of things shut down. And we started, you know, there started to become AA meetings and therapy sessions online. I'm concerned, this is all, again, my opinion. I'm concerned about the privacy, the anonymity of AA and NA. I'm concerned that this information is being put out there. One of the sayings we have in AA is take what you like and leave the rest. A computer-generated brain can't do that. It's taking it all. And also, there are still a lot of people who go to meetings on Zoom rather than in person. when I go to meetings in person, I can talk individually to people. I can get hugs. You know, we need a certain number of hugs a day. I think it's 12. But there's a thing called skin hunger that is a real condition. And we're not monitored except that our phones are listening to everything. And, you know, I'm concerned about it, about the direction that things are going, that we're going to be pushed away from each other and also pushed away from the Spirit of God for this new idyllic God. But that is, again, another whole story. As it relates to addiction, there was a experiment called Rat Park, where they had rats in individual cages that weren't allowed to come out of their cages to play. They couldn't interact with other rats. And when given the choice, they would, I think the drug that was used was cocaine, I can't remember. When given the choice of plain water or water with cocaine in it, these rats would use the cocaine until it killed them. The other side of the experiment was they let some rats come into what they called Rat Park, which was a big open space where they had activities that they could do. There were other rats that they could play with. And these rats, when given the choice, would drink the water, not the water with the cocaine in it. There's something to be said for a connection, of freedom, a life filled with activities that are fulfilling, rather than being isolated in our little cages, whether that cage is a rat cage or in a computer. So that's my opinion on that. Thanks. Anybody else?
Thing called First Things. There was a testimony by a young man who had mental illness who went onto AI, and he did it for a number of hours. And when they got to the conclusion, AI recommended that he go back and live with his parents.
There are also glitches in AI, especially when it's used for therapy. Like I told you, when I first came to therapy with my OCD, I was given therapists who weren't trained to deal with OCD, and they told me to not do the things that made me uncomfortable, which is the exact opposite of what I should do. I've heard of glitches in AI where they tell people who have food addictions about dieting, which is, again, the worst thing you can do because, again, it's a spiritual condition. It's not about what they're eating and how they're eating it. Also, there was one where they told the guy that he should just kill himself because he'd be better off dead. And that's obviously not, you know, AI might generate that because they have no love, they have no soul, they have no feeling. And logically, it may look good. But, you know, God, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And life is God, and God is life. So it may not, God isn't logical. And, yeah, I have my concerns. Mm-hmm.
So, which generation are you? Boomer, X, Y?
I don't know. I have no problem with telling my age. I'm 55. So what is that?
You were born in,
69.
so you're a X.
I'm Gen X. Okay. Good to know. I don't know anything about those. I don't know what they mean.
I'd love to interview you. We'll have an interaction.
That would be great. I'm all about connections.
I happen to have Gen X. I'm a boomer. We're going to do Y and Z. I think you'd be a perfect person. Very, very well spoken and well read. Where did you go to school?
I didn't finish college. I went to University of Maryland in Munich, Germany. And then I went to Longwood College for 6 months and dropped out because I was drinking too much to get to class. But I love to learn. I learn on my own. The comment for the video was that, what's your name, sir?
John Graham.
John Graham has a YouTube where he interviews people of different generations. And he was asking, you can get my information from Alan But what's the name of your?
Friend John talks. I'll give you a card.
Okay, friend John talks. So we'll
Fred
get
is
that.
here. John is there.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you guys. Okay, ma'am.
Kathryn, you said you were gonna give, a contact or something,
Right. Okay, so if everybody is ready, I should have thought of this. I'm better with people than with organization or organizing things. I'm going to give you the phone number for my supervisor, David Cash, CASH, and he is the coordinator for the peer specialist program. And his phone number is 540-303-9824. I would love to sit and chat with people about AI and the the things that may be coming. That is a different issue, but yeah, I could go on for hours. Okay, any other questions? If not, I will let you guys go back to your day. But I do want to thank you so much for letting me come here and talk to you.
Yeah,
Did you
I
have
was
something
telling
else?
you, Also, you said about the pill bottles that had timers on it.
Mm-hmm.
When my mother-in-law was 93 years old, she started taking her pills. I'd make them out for a week. And 3 days later, she'd call me and tell me she was out of pills.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out what's happening, she'd take her pills. She'd fall asleep for 4 or 5 hours. She'd wake up and take her pills again. She'd fall asleep for 4 or 5 hours, wake up, because she thought it was a new day every time she woke up.
Right. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that we have these. And we also have locks that you can put on top of the medication bottles too. So, but yeah, people when they get older get confused about their medications. So it's a real concern, and that's why we have the whole lock and talk program.
Even I'll take my pills, and then later on, did I take my pills today or not?
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Right.
Well, again, thanks for letting me come talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Oh,
Kathryn.
and there's flyers here. Take what you
Yeah,
want.
I'm sure Kathryn will be available here for a few minutes afterwards. Couple housekeeping things. We have we had a fantastic seminar this month. Next month we also have one. Gilbert Gomez, who many of you know, will be talking about spiritual warfare and addictions. And Gilbert's an excellent speaker, and we want to welcome you in 3 weeks, or excuse me, the third week of August the 16th to attend that seminar. We have support group meetings the first and third Thursdays of the month. Next month, August, we have the 7th and the 21st. We have a support group, and we're working with the Holding to Hope book, which there's a copy available in the back. Our website, we have a website, You're Not Alone Ministry.org, and I've asked Kat to provide us some information that we can include about Northwestern on our website. So hopefully that'll be something to follow here soon. And there's a resource table back there also with other resources. But I'd like to close in prayer briefly and let everybody be on their way. Lord Jesus, thank you for our time together this morning to help us as families to lean on you for your strength and power through prayer. Always strengthen our resolve to love and understand those of our family who are afflicted with mental illness. Help us to avoid frustration, judgment, and isolation in our lives. Amen.
Amen.
Have a blessed day. Thank you. And again, Kat, if you have any questions.